I feel like I could beat 15 to 20 well-trained 8 to 9-year-old children. I would pick them up by a foot, one of them, and I would use as a weapon. And I would swing that kid around to hit the other kids.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass. We're gonna die hard.
Hey, my man, what it looked like. Gene, tonight's commission comes from Daylen D. And Daylen has commissioned 4 films. So this is number 2 and 4. The other ones, he did 3 Kings. Twins is coming up. Apollo 13. And tonight's film, Gene, it is where Kung Fu meets music, video mayhem, and glowing power quest for self-worth and shoulder moves. So in the math here, let's think Enter the Dragon, plus Purple Rain, times Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or Karate Kid times Flashdance, plus Coming to America with Nunchucks. Or, I'll give you a third one, this is rare, Shaft plus Big Trouble in Little China, divided by Logic times Showtime at the Apollo. And that can leave only one film, Gene, for Daylen. He requested us to commission the 1985 American musical martial arts film, The Last Dragon.
And our esteemed commissioner wrote in and said, Shat Crew, so I now officially have a list of gems I am shocked y'all haven't reviewed yet. Needless to say, there's still plenty of meat on the bones of 80s and 90s movies. I hope to commission them all eventually, but the first has to be this great train wreck. The Last Dragon is far and away one of my childhood favorites. I picked this movie to commission because it's so bad that it's good. But oh boy, is it bad. This movie has always been a staple of my childhood. I think it had all the elements that were perfect from the 80s, but has somehow aged in present times. I'm not sure if this is considered a cult classic when it was released, but it certainly became an instant classic among my friends when I petitioned them to watch it a couple of years ago. They all said the same thing. It was horrible, but I couldn't stop watching it. The movie that lives in my heart is one that had great fight scenes, the origin of my fear of piranhas, amazing song and dance sequences, and a final fight that was legendary. The moment when Bruce blocks Sho'nuff's hand from continuing to punch him and announces, I am the master, was a cinematic moment that probably sparked puberty for me. It was right up there with moments like Rocky getting back up and facing Apollo, Rambo telling Murdoch, I'm coming to get you, He-Man yelling, I have the power, and Conan telling Crom to go to hell. But the movie that exists today is as painful to watch as getting your hair eaten by a tank of piranhas. Upon a recent rewatch, I found I had to fast forward several times to make it through the whole movie. For me, the fight scenes and music still hold up, especially the final fight. Where the writers came up with that is bonkers, and I could watch that scene 100 times and not get sick of it. And perhaps I have. I hope that I've given y'all a movie that'll be difficult to score. Listening to a review will be like watching a prize-winning half-court basketball shot. If it hits, then I'd be ecstatic. But if it misses, I'll say, yeah, nobody expected that to work. Happy viewing, fellas. Your faithful fan, Daylen.
Did they ever say it was piranha? I had no idea what was in that tank.
I think that, I mean, yeah, it was just a green tank. I assumed that it was piranhas, but I like that they left it open. It could have been something from Chinatown, some strange creature.
That's what I thought it was. I thought it was like a mogwai. You go to Chinatown, you might find anything in one of these tanks.
Well, Daylen, from about 1999 to 2017, I had a best friend named Victoria. And Victoria exposed me to a load of amazing films and music that were outside the mainstream. She might have been to my friend group what you are to your friend group. The Last Dragon was one of her favorites, and it was legendary in our little clique. I had no doubt that I would love it just as much in my 40s as I did in my 20s. I was mostly concerned about Big D's opinion going into this movie. And I got to tell you, I still don't know exactly where he sits on this, and it's making me a little queasy.
Well, when this commission came in, Gene, I didn't know what to think. Because for some reason, I don't know how I missed it. I like ninja films. I like martial arts, but somehow I did not see this film.
Because there's black people.
No, I don't. If it was, I don't know, it had nothing to do with black people. It was like maybe kung fu. If it was ninjas in kung fu, I probably would have seen it, but I did not see it. So it comes in and I'm thinking, is this going to be a serious kung fu film? Or is it going to be a blaxploitation flick? Is it going to be something that's openly a parody, like I'm going to get you sucker or something like that? I didn't know. So it took me a couple minutes of the film going before I got my kung fu legs and I could like truly stretch and get like kick face level. Once it got rolling, I got excited.
I love that Big D has this mysterious classification I was unaware of called serious kung fu movies.
No, like I've never seen any of the Bruce Lee stuff either.
They're not serious,
but I've never seen them.
Okay.
In my mind,
never watched kung fu movies.
No, but when you view Bruce Lee, it seems very serious. Like the camera zooms in on his face, and he's like, it doesn't look like it's camp. They look like they'd be like serious fighting and drama. You got Chuck Norris in there, for God's sake.
Yeah, Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee tears his chest hair out. He fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He fights a guy that can switch out hands in like a hall of mirrors. It's not serious. It's kung fu.
So all kung fu is camp? Holy shit.
Well, no. Well, hold on. Let's not say it's not. I wouldn't say it's camp necessarily, but if you look at stuff, even like Jackie Chan stuff, like Drunken Master, it's all funny. That's why the facial hair looks so weird. That's why everything's so flashy. It's not to be taken seriously.
Okay, I've been misinformed all these years.
Well, I hope you take that into account in this review. The Last Dragon is a 1985 martial arts film directed by Michael Schultz, written by Louis Van Osta, and produced by Rupert Hitzig for Barry Gordy. The film stars Taimak, Vanity, Julius Carey, Christopher Murney, Keisha Knight Pulliam, and Faith Prince. Choreography was created by Lester Wilson and Lawrence Laritz. The Last Dragon was released in theaters by TriStar Pictures on March 22nd, 1985. The film was a financial success despite a mixed reception by critics and is considered a cult classic. Let's hit the trailer.
It's Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Audiences are lining up to see it. The critics are giving it glowing reviews, comparing it to Raiders of the Lost Ark for fast-moving action and fun. Starring Vanity and Taimak, plus DeBarge performing their hit single, Rhythm of the Night. Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Directed by Michael Schultz, rated PG-13. Now playing at a theater near you.
In New York City, Leroy Green dreams of becoming a great martial artist like his idol, Bruce Lee. His master explains that he has almost reached the final level of martial arts accomplishment when he will unleash the glow over his entire body. Given a medal his master says belonged to Bruce Lee, Leroy embarks on a spiritual journey to find Master Some Dumb Goy, who supposedly has the other half of the medal. So Big D, as the opening credits rolled up, I noticed that The Last Dragon is actually titled Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. And I quickly understood why they decided to make the title song blast at like top volume. The opening is more music video than setting the scene. You've got Bruce Leroy and he's working out in the gym, slow motion kicks, slow motion punches, slow motion jumping. It's letting you know this isn't just a kung fu movie. It isn't just a blaxploitation movie. This is a kung fu blaxploitation music video. And for those who are not in the know and who were not at my wedding in Detroit, Barry Gordy is the famous founder of Motown Records and also father to Red Foo and grandfather to Sky Blue, both of LMFAO fame. Also somehow related to Jimmy Carter. This movie, to understand it fully, you got to know this is Barry Gordy's attempt to do a lot of things culturally. He was really putting his money into a legacy project. He wanted a black superhero for kids to look up to. He wanted to make kung fu movies more inclusive, show that black people in America were interested in the martial arts. He wanted to showcase some of his musical talent, and he wanted to make some money in the process. And that's the crazy part to me. We've seen lots of these like passion projects where somebody really wanted to get something done artistically or make a point or make a social statement, but they lost money. The movie tanked. This movie had a $10 million budget and doing all the things I just listed still somehow made $33 million at the box office.
So Gene, it's smart. If you want to make money, make a film attractive to multiple audiences. You got the music, You got the romance, you got the dancing, you got everything that's involved there. And I thought back to my time in New York growing up in like the 90s with the Wu-Tang Clan. The Kung Fu was always a big part of the songs and a big part of the videos. And I was shocked to go back and to realize in my research here that RZA tried to remake this in 2012 with Samuel Jackson as Sho'nuff. And I think you could still do a remake of this. I would love to see Jeremy Pivens play Arkadian. It would be great. Maybe do a violent version of this. This is something that is ripe to make now a remake of. I'm not an expert in Bruce Lee. I've never seen anything more than just the clips of him fighting or the story of his death, sadly, and him growing up and becoming famous. And I have to ask you, you're trained, you've done multiple disciplines of martial arts, and you and I have scrapped a bit. We've thrown hands, I've had my balls on your back, we've wrestled each other fiercely.
And then we went to the gym.
Oh, yeah. And then, I know that we tend to romanticize the athletes of the past or the combatants of the past. We treat legends like they're untouchable. I'm a Yankee fan. Babe Ruth, I'm sorry. If he's today, he is not touching Shohei Ohtani. He's not hitting home runs of all these guys throwing 98 miles an hour. Muhammad Ali, I don't know if he could hang with today's boxers. Bruce Lee, I'm starting to wonder as well. Because if you think back to this time, you didn't have the same training methods. You didn't have the same medicine. You didn't have the competition and the specialized like training and life sciences and medical ability to recover, to train, to maximize your ability. And I'm not going to say, I know he's revolutionary. Everyone respects him for what he did for the martial arts. But if you put him in MMA today, if you put him in the UFC, I don't think he could hang. I don't think he could hang with some of these bigger guys who blend wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking. Do you believe that he would be the master he's remembered as if he was today competing in mixed martial arts?
You have to remember that Bruce Lee was like 130, 140 pounds. If he was doing like just striking, like if he had the opportunity to train, given the same access to the sport, I think he could do well. He was incredibly physically competent. However, if you just took him and plopped him, right, time machined him into the octagon today, I think he'd get his ass kicked. And I think people misunderstand the impact of Bruce Lee. And it comes down to martial arts and why they call martial arts and not fighting. Because martial arts is multi-dimensional for the reason why you do it, right? So martial arts can be for self-defense, sure, but also martial arts are for physical fitness, for discipline, for mental clarity, for sport. And that's why I get really upset when people like poo-poo, karate or taekwondo or even tai chi. Each of them serve a different kind of purpose. Some of them are lifelong things that you can study. Other ones like Krav Maga, you can study it for life. But once you get into the upper levels, things get pretty silly because it's meant to be learned very, very quickly with minimal instruction, right? So it's not one of those things that like jiu-jitsu where you would study for life and continuously learn. And it's kind enough on your body that it's something you could do even in old age, right? So if you look at all those dimensions, like holistically, I think it's very hard to find a more complete martial artist than Bruce Lee. His exercise, he occasionally lifted weights and ran and stuff, but his exercise was martial arts. His discipline was martial arts. And more importantly, I think he changed the way people looked at Asians. And this can't be overstated. I forget this sometimes, but think to Bruce Lee and then think of everything before Bruce Lee. There were Asian people in the films prior to Bruce Lee, but what were they? The feeble villain? Or they were like a subservient guy that was doing your laundry or running your errands or whatever? That's what Asians were. That's what the stereotype was. Nobody thought, oh, those Asians, they're badass. Oh, those Asians, they know karate. That is not it at all. This one guy changed the entire stereotype for a race. That is bonkers. And in a way, Daylen, I think that's kind of what Barry Gordy was trying to do with Leroy Green. He was like, I want to change the way people look at black people and let them know that, we're into martial arts. Like that is an aspect of black culture, particularly in New York.
The one thing that makes me skeptical, Gene, is that 2-inch punch. Come on. That to me screams not genuine. when people like get thrown across the room. That's like a faith healer putting hands on people and they start twitching on the floor. That's the only thing that makes me skeptical.
It's a little Frank Dukesy.
Yes.
It's a little bullshito. Yeah.
But I do respect that they reframed, like you said, because Asians generally were portrayed as sneaky. They would never confront you face on, and there was never anyone you'd be afraid of.
Dude, the masculinity element of it. Let's just talk about that. The muscles, the sweat, the shirtless. Like, yeah, that was not a thing before Bruce Lee. Incredible impact. Well, Sho'nuff, a martial artist known as the Shogun of Harlem, sees Leroy as the only obstacle to being acknowledged as the true master of martial arts. But Leroy refuses to fight him, even when Sho'nuff's gang interrupts a Bruce Lee film screening of Enter the Dragon. To bait Leroy, a furious Sho'nuff and his minions Crunch, Beast, and Cyclone barge into Leroy's martial arts school. They assault Leroy and Johnny Yu, one of Leroy's students, demanding that Leroy kiss Sho'nuff's shoes.
So this podcast will be an education for me in Kung Fu. Coming into it, I expected it to, I was thinking in my head, the Warriors, that level of reality, of like, of violence, of seriousness. Because this is supposed to be Kung Fu. It's set in Harlem. We got fighting, street gangs. It looks like New York is not in a good place, and there's a lot of violent, scary things around, but nobody swears. Not once. There's the harshest insults we get in the beginning is Sho'nuff. Sho'nuff comes into Bruce Leroy's little area, and he calls him a limp wimp. That's it. That's the best that he could say. It's PG, it's sterilized, and I was like, is this the TV version that I got? And then Sho'nuff demands that Bruce Leroy kisses his Converse. I'm like, wow, oh, okay, we're getting serious. And I started texting Eugene some of the quotes that just kept coming fast and furious. I would love to peel you like a banana. The sayonara, the mama-san, papa-san, the chill out chopsticks, the hasta la pasta. The quotes they're goofy. They're over the top. They're unforgettable. And I just almost lost it when Bruce Leroy's student yells at Sho'nuff, "You big, ugly, smelly breath sucker." That line, I was like, okay, I realize this is not a serious film with adults who are like in combatants. This is like kids in the school playground talking trash. And once I got on board with that and started thinking Saturday morning cartoons, I started to roll with the film.
And once again, it's a hallmark of a Kung Fu movie is that the language is a bit toned down. The most offensive word Bruce Lee ever said on screen was damn. Jackie Chan, he was a little worse and continues to be a little worse, but normally that was sanitized in translation. So even if he said something like terrible in Cantonese, they didn't let that through in the English version. And that gets me back to the fact that The Last Dragon, it's not a parody of great Kung Fu movies. It's not satirical. It is an homage. Like, it's a love letter. It incorporates all the must-have moments of the Kung Fu genre. And people who are students of Kung Fu movies, particularly Bruce Lee movies, they know that you got to have these elements in every single one of them. There's the bad guys. They come in, they trash your family business. Usually it's like your uncle, not always your dad. Then they really want to get you to fight, but you're keeping your calm, because you don't want to dishonor your family. So they got to come to your dojo and challenge you there in front of your students. And Big D, I spend about 10 hours a week at EVKM and at Dark Matter. I'm training Krav Maga. I'm training Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's all in the same building. It's our second home. When we're training, there's 30 to 40 students in the room. There's windows out to the street. The doors are not locked. There's signage outside, self-defense, be a street fighter. The light rail stops just a few hundred yards away from our door. I am absolutely shocked at how few people just walk in looking for a fight. You would think that would happen on the daily, and occasionally it happens. And I'm talking like in the 8 years that I've been there, I think it's maybe 2 or 3 times that it's happened. And it's incredibly awkward. And I feel so bad for the gym owner having to go talk to these guys. We had a guy come in and all he would say is self-defense. Big dude too. And he's just like, self-defense, self-defense. He had sunglasses.
Wait, like those were the only 2 words? It wasn't like...
That's all he would say, self-defense. And he had sunglasses. He had 1 boxing glove. The other hand was free, but he had boxing headgear on. You know, like, what do you do with this guy? You can't fight him. Like, he's clearly not okay in the head. The only solution is, this is the trick, they set him up with the sales guy. The sales guy goes, hey, buddy, you want to sign up for some classes? Okay, we got different packages. You know, if you want to sign up for unlimited classes for a month, it's $150. Escort them into the front office. And they usually at that point are like, I don't want to pay any money. And they leave. Self-defense.
Self-defense. Yeah, I think today the IRL streamers are the only ones who do this. When they will challenge like people who can really fight.
These guys are dicks.
See, I would have looked around like outside to see if somebody's videotaping it. Because there's no way any normal person would do that. I'm surprised at this point you guys don't have like code words for like when somebody comes in and if they go too far, you guys would beat the piss out of this person. He'd be bleeding in front of the studio.
The closest I've come to this is sometimes they do free trials, you know. So first class is free. Whatever.
I did that. I did the free trial class.
Yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
There was a guy that came in and we were doing shoulder tag, which is like a footwork drill where you're just basically moving around. You tag each other's shoulders real light just to make sure that you get moving, getting warm. You're figuring out your arm length, your range, all that stuff. And this dude straight up punched me in the face. I don't know what to do right now. Like, it wasn't a good punch.
I'm larger than most human beings. So I have that as an advantage. You know, you and I wrestled and it was difficult for you to move me surely by my size, not by my technique. I understand the principles of leverage and how to use your weight, you know, but I've never trained for multiple years. So there's one thing in this movie that I had to get to for you. I know I could not handle a true martial artist. If they just wanted to come at me, they would be able to beat me easily. But that little kid, one of Bruce Leroy's students, the little tiny kid, I feel like he's the kid in Revenge of the Ninja. The little kid who...
I think it is that kid.
I think so too. He tries to stand up to the bad ninja and he ends up getting killed. I think that happens in any circumstance. I feel like I could beat 15 to 20 well-trained 8 to 9-year-old children. I would pick them up by a foot, one of them, and I would use as a weapon. And I would swing that kid around to hit the other kids. How many of those kids, Gene, with your mix, you have Krav Maga, that would teach you to disarm them and to run away. Jiu-Jitsu, you could get to submit them. How many children, how many 8 or 9-year-old trained children from Bruce Leroy's studio could you defeat?
I think if you go to the ground with them, you're screwed.
Oh, they'll pile on you.
They'll cover you like a zombie horde. Yeah, so you got to stay on your feet. With the level of skill of this kid from The Last Dragon, I think maybe a dozen tops because his kicks are good. He's pretty agile and a couple kicks to the nuts. I don't care how tough you are. You're going to be in trouble. But average kids, like just a kid off the street that size, I think I'd do like 20 if I'm allowed to use elbows and kicks.
Of course.
Okay. Because here's things, not that I've thought about this a lot, but kids, their bones are actually like quite
malleable.
Yeah, they're flexible. So it's really hard to break their bones. You'd have to damage their organs essentially. But I think with kicks and able to keep them away and do heavy kicks to the face and chest, and then elbows. I think elbows, you take a kid's nose or eye out and they're probably going to stop fighting. But at some point, it's just too many kids.
I think you would fatigue. I think that's your number one like weakness. No matter how your cardio is on point, 20 of them, if they just bum rush you, you'd have a problem. But I think you can't break their bones, but you can break their spirit. If you get 1 or 2 of them and just really devastate them, the other kids will be like, holy shit, I'm a kid. My training is not legit. I can't punch you, and my technique, I can't kick you above your thigh. I think we could beat them. But Gene, Bruce Leroy, for all we're going to talk about this film and these kids training, that dude is legit. When he starts kicking and warming up in the beginning, I was like, wow, we got something here. His kicks are Van Damme height. They are straight up in the air. He's fluid. He's fast. He's athletic. And the speed caught me off guard. Because you think about like 80s action heroes, and it was usually either somebody who had the look or somebody who seemed like a badass. And then the fighting was kind of put in secondary. Here, it was front and center. The choreography was good because of that. This kid had star power. He had skill. He was only 19. So I was like, I have to check to see if this was some camera work or he had trained up for it. But the dude was a legitimate black belt in karate. He trained like Eugene in multiple disciplines, Taekwondo, Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, Chinese Goju Karate. Don't even know what that is, but it worked. And this kid was great. He became an instructor later on, opened a dojo. He did not become a star, which I think he could have. And that's a sad thing. He's more charismatic than a young Van Damme. I think there could have been an avenue for this guy to have become a much bigger action star.
He's got that star power. If you were to ask me to watch this movie with all the people in it, William H. Macy, Chaz Palminteri, who would be the most famous out of this cast? I would say definitely Taimak. Like he's got everything. All of his lines, they're delivered earnestly, but you get like that little hint that we're all in on some joke. He always looks like he's about to break character, but he never does. It's crazy that, it never happened for him. And, sometimes they don't want it.
His delivery is obviously designed to be awkward. It's a strange choice because Bruce Leroy, his speech pattern, it changes throughout the film. At some point, he sounds stereotypical kung fu sage or like an African-American Yoda. And then he kind of shifts back to a normal, regular New York kid. It's inconsistent. It's distracting. And then I started to realize, okay, this is he's kind of playing up the role. He's raised in Harlem, but he likes the movies. And even with all of that said, he still is like you said, he's winking at the camera. It's not where he looks foolish for doing it, but the character to me was a little laughable at that point. But the kid is great.
Dude, speaking of kids, the little kid that we were talking about, kicking my ass, that's Ernie Reyes Jr. from Ninja Turtles.
Really?
He was also in Rush Hour 2 and The Rundown. Ernie Reyes Jr. He's legit. He went on to be a badass.
Yeah, it's a good thing we didn't beat the shit out of him as a kid. He would have come back and taught us a lesson.
I think, though, explaining Leroy's speech patterns, it's not like he was a kid that grew up in China and then like fell from the sky in New York. He is a New Yorker who was obsessed with Bruce Lee and martial arts. So it explained the way he talks. And I don't know how to say this, Big D, but I think Leroy is a little crazy.
That might be because people do treat him. Did you see the signs on the wall of his studio?
No,
they were like written in crayon. It was all of these motivational messages that didn't quite hit. And I was thinking in my head, because it's crayon and he could not write. I was like, maybe they were hinting he was special needs and everybody was just feeding into this one passion he had, running around town in that silk outfit with the hat. People were like, hey, just let him go. He's doing good things.
I mean, when he does come down to breakfast, his parents do seem like, we're proud of you, son.
You notice how they don't ask him to work at the pizzeria. We don't want you behind the counter.
No, he just has to do setup and then get the hell out of there.
Yeah, so stay up on the roof. Do your stretch.
Customers see you.
That's what it is.
Go to your box, Leroy. Exactly. Meanwhile, video arcade mogul Eddie Arkadian sends his men to kidnap local video jockey Laura Charles. Eddie hopes to get several trashy music videos starring his girlfriend Angela Veraco featured on Laura's show. Leroy thwarts a kidnapping attempt but loses his medal during the struggle. Laura recovers the medal but is kidnapped the next day by Arkadian's brutish henchman Rock. When Laura refuses to promote Angela's video, Leroy bursts into the room and rescues Laura from torture. Back at her apartment, Laura gratefully returns Leroy's medal.
So as the review here is going on, Gene, I'm starting to shift my opinion. I'm starting to shift. Like you said, you hope that I would see it differently. Yes. Because as it's going, it was feeling to me like less of a movie. And it had the feeling of like an 80s TV show. As the conflict is going back and forth, it's really not a lot of blood, and it's like an A-Team episode, I thought, or Baywatch. A lot of musical interludes of people running, jumping, being athletic, or Airwolf. When Sho'nuff, his swagger, the way he walks around, I'm thinking Walker, Texas Ranger. This is not like gritty kung fu. It's camp. It's TV style with a Motown soundtrack. But the smart thing is, that's probably how you hook the kids. That's how you hook the parents. There was nobody protesting at the violence of this. I think it's a good gateway into the genre and into martial arts.
Yeah, I think I'm still seeing classic kung fu movie where you're seeing 80s TV. They got the girl that needs to be rescued by the hero, the bad guys with each of them has a distinct ability to like attack, but they always attack one by one, in that circle.
Yeah,
and then what the big tell is when we get to Seventh Heaven and there's the big fight, that big showdown. It's always in this like fun house setting with like cameras that like are like, I see you, Bruce Leroy, or like lights flashing, some sort of distraction. And then there's always that final scene in some sort of a warehouse somewhere. Usually it's like an ice block factory or a logging facility or something. The only real difference, like you said, Big D, is that there are these music video sensibilities occasionally mixed in. I credit that to Barry Gordy, where they were really trying to highlight these musicians of varying talents. And speaking of musicians of varying talents, until we started this project of Shat the Movies, Big D, I'd never really noticed how many movies feature Vanity in the 80s. Like we covered Crush Groove already in the Shat Pantheon. Now we've got The Last Dragon. I did not know she was in nearly 20 other films and TV shows. She nearly got into Purple Rain, but she had a falling out with the Prince crew, so they replaced her with Apollonia at the last minute. But the Apollonia 6 was originally the Vanity 6. She's okay. Like, she's serviceable in this movie, but she always, to me, sounds like she's reading the lines and doesn't exude any sort of a special charm. Also, a weird choice. You pointed out that Taimak is 19 in this movie. So let's say Leroy's 19. Clearly, Vanity is not 19. She's 24 years old when this movie is being made, which makes at that age her seem kind of like a cradle robber.
Yeah, she sadly died fairly young. She died in 2016 of kidney failure, apparently, from years of crack cocaine and drug addiction. I think that ties back to. I feel bad saying it, but I don't think she was there for her talent. She's obviously a beautiful woman. She was probably charismatic, but the songs, they're not that good. When they go to Seventh Heaven, it's a disaster, Gene. The filmmakers, they didn't play like a little sliver. The El DeBarge, that's a banger. That's good. Play that. But this song, Gene, they play the entire thing. This is not worth a full-length track to be forced. Points of it felt like off pitch. It was uninspired, and the movie dragged to a halt because we went from a kung fu film to 20 minutes without Bruce Leroy. There was nothing but the club. And I'm going to play, I know you hate the music, 30 seconds of this song without commenting because the audience is going to think I'm being harsh, but just listen to this.
Never say never.
That's my favorite part.
Gets a little pitchy here.
You find my place, you finally find my place. Yes, love inside.
It's not good.
We should point out for the listeners as well that she's not English. So I don't know what the fuck that accent is. But Big D, you picked my absolute favorite part of the song. Never,
Never.
never at the elevator door. What makes this harder to digest is that Angela is supposed to be like the talentless hack that Arkadian is supposed to get on the video countdown. Angela's songs were better than Vanity's. Like, they're not bad.
No, I thought that was Julie Brown for a second from Earth Girls Are Easy. It was comparable, like, style. I would have paid to see her perform. You don't know what you're going to get.
And like you said, DeBarge. I was dancing around the living room. What a fucking jam, dude. What a jam. Well, consumed with vengeance, Arkadian hires Sho'nuff to defeat Leroy and takes control of Laura's studio, capturing Laura and Leroy's younger brother, Richie. Posing as a pizza delivery man, Leroy manages to infiltrate the assumed lair of Master Some Dumb Goy, but is shocked to discover that the master is only a computer churning out fortune cookies. Leroy consults his former master for answers, but his master suggests that Leroy has known the answers all along. Not wanting anyone to get hurt in the process of achieving her stardom, Angela leaves Arkadian and asks Johnny to warn Leroy about his plan.
Right about now, Gene, my conversion has become complete. It's the pizzeria showdown.
Beautiful.
It is the ultimate moment of camp. Sho'nuff and his crew, they storm into the pizzeria. They wreck the place. They're wrecking the jukebox, the tables, and the mother starts winging pizza dough balls at the thugs. Little Richie, his brother, gets picked up and shoved into the trash can and comes out pissed off at his brother with like spaghetti and meat sauce all over his shirt. I don't even know if that was on the menu. It's silly. It's exaggerated. It's funny. And it fully embraces the cartoon energy. And the result is fun. Leroy comes in and he's like sheds a tear to see what his family has done. Everyone's disappointed. And I said, holy shit, I get it. I get it.
Sho'nuff sees Angela's music video on the jukebox, a jukebox owned by Eddie Arkadian inside the pizzeria. He kicks it and breaks it. And Leroy Green Sr. is like, I don't even own that. It's fucking great. And the great thing about Sho'nuff is in this age of memes, in this age of TikTok, this guy requires zero context to appreciate. You don't need to know anything about The Last Dragon to get this guy. You can show any person the movie theater scene where he breaks in on Enter the Dragon, the dojo scene where he breaks into Leroy's school, the final fight in the warehouse, or the pizzeria scene. All of it's entertaining instantly. Just like the Ninja Turtles, he's just this denizen of New York. You never know how he affords anything, where he lives, where he comes from, who makes his armor. You never see him stealing. It's not like he's doing crime for the money. He refuses payment from Arkadian. I just love how much sense this character does not make.
But I think he's running some kind of a studio because we see him training.
Is that a crime?
I think we see the mat on the floor when he beats that one guy unconscious. That he is like a group, he's like a cult leader for them, but I think he also probably has paid students.
Yeah, but even Master Shredder, when he was doing that in Ninja Turtles, the gritty film that Roger Roper loved so much, they were stealing to support their criminal enterprise and have that hangout for the kids.
See, I don't think he's a bad guy. He doesn't go after like innocent people. He's got some kind of gripe with Leroy because he feels like he is a thorn in his side and maybe is hindering his ascension, his glow up. It's a personal thing with him. Yes, he destroys the pizzeria. That was unfair, but I think that was done only to lure him out, to finally have the final conflict and challenge him in an open forum.
So listeners, if this sounds like a zoo of a movie at this point, it is. And I want to take a moment to address the anti-woke contingent of our audience. I hope you're still out there listening. We've been through a lot together, guys. A lot of years, lots of almost 500 episodes. There's a really important lesson in The Last Dragon and other 80s movies that I think Big D and I have really internalized in these hundreds of films that we've seen from the 80s and 90s. Representation in film is not a new thing. And when people say, oh, look at this movie with a black Little Mermaid or a female superhero or a gay sidekick, and that's being shoved down my throat in 2025, they should remember that in 1985, there was a movie that had a black kung fu master trying to ebonics his way into a layer of jive-talking Chinese who are making fake fortune cookies with a computer after going into a theater full of Hispanics, gay bears, and a fucking drag queen. Leroy Sr. is a black man with a pizza shop that wants you to move your pizza to Daddy Green's Pizza. It's all representation. It's saying anybody can be anything they want to be, and we want all these different. This is New York on screen. It's woke as fuck, man.
I disagree. I think this is done the right way. This is character first, and it just happens to be, like you're saying, that he's an African-American character that changed. Today, I think there's a lot of movies that maybe we're past it, where they are forcing the the character to fit something necessarily that's not interesting first. I can think of a lot, like now, characters that happen to be gay, black, Chinese, whatever, but they're not interesting characters on their own. It is almost like we have to fit this stereotype instead of these characters in this film are interesting that happen to be black Chinese. It's not because they are black or Chinese.
But like the two bears that are up in the balcony at the theater, right?
Fantastic.
Yeah. Why do they need to be there? Why you got to put gay people in the movie? Why are you shoving it down my throat?
It wasn't there.
There's no character development there.
You didn't need them to stand out. They're there. They're part there with their friends, with the group there. They didn't focus on them. They weren't there because they were bears. They were just part of that wild crew. You got people running around, Gene, with like togas on. You got that little guy in a pink tank top. You got like Italian dudes wearing tiny shorts. It is a wild group. You would expect them to be there. You didn't force them into something that wouldn't be natural. That was a wild group.
There's only one movie that I shut off ever because I felt it was too woke, and that was The Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos movie. They beat you so fucking hard over the head about the civil rights movement at that time. It's not a mob movie anymore. It's something fucking else. That movie sucks. There's my bona fides, friends. There's my bona fides. I do have my limits. As Leroy returns to Seventh Heaven, he is ambushed by an army of violent thugs hired by Arkadian. Leroy's students, led by Johnny, charge into the studio to even the odds. Using Laura as bait, Eddie lures Leroy into a dilapidated building where Leroy finally faces off against Sho'nuff and achieves the glow. After Leroy uses his newfound power to defeat Sho'nuff, Arkadian shoots Leroy in the face. Leroy catches the bullet between his teeth before detaining Arkadian for the police. Back at the studio, Laura and Leroy kiss while the Seventh Heaven crowd and Leroy's students celebrate. I should point out that Leroy's infiltration of the Seventh Heaven studio is the first time we see security of any kind in this building. I would have been happy with like a locked door. No, she's got a CCTV set up. There are cameras monitoring the building. For the record, dear listeners, this woman has been kidnapped from her studio by limousine. She's been kidnapped from her studio, again, by TV truck. She's been threatened by Eddie Arkadian, but her only solution to be safer at her place of business and her home is to ask Leroy, a 19-year-old, to be her bodyguard and apparently install these cameras that nobody is using. The security in this building is so lax that children are just walking around the scaffolding. Entire karate schools can come bursting through the back entrance. What is going on here?
See, I didn't know because Laura Charles, at one moment, she seems like a big star. And then the next moment, it seems like this is a local, like cable channel. That it's not
That's New York, though.
It's not a high production value. It's not everybody necessarily. Nobody's swamping her on the street like she's a big star. So maybe they're like, "Hey, we don't have the money for the security here," or I don't know. I was fine with it because you needed her to get kidnapped. But why would you threaten her? If you're a businessman, Eddie should have just offered her money. Hey,
yeah.
You can't afford security. You can't afford a locked door. I'll give you some money. Put my artist on.
He was going to offer to take her out to a fancy dinner and let her order a la carte.
I would have at least gotten a dinner out of it. I think she should have done that. But Gene, this point, because we have like a big gap here in the plot. What's going on? We have the kidnapping. We have the setup for the final fights. And I was surprised at Sho'nuff. Sho'nuff, we've heard about the glow up or the reaching the top level or leveling up. Sho'nuff, surprisingly, is the one who glows up first in this climax. And it's a great example, I think, of how this movie does some creative, simple things with a tiny budget. How do you demonstrate? They said early on that, you'll get the glow. And I start thinking about Excalibur. I thought there was going to be some kind of an external light that they would shine on the performers, like the green light in Excalibur, and you'd hear the music or something. No, they go simple comic book style. It looks like they drew on the film when we get like any kind of impact. It's like, bam! And you see, like, think Scott Pilgrim, that cartoon. Yeah. But they must have done all of these cells by hand. It's creative, it's campy, it's fun, and it makes Sho'nuff look badass as he's fighting and hitting and the sparks are flying. It gave it a pizzazz and a kind of like a polish that I wasn't expecting for a film with this low of a budget.
I was torn on who to root for.
Oh, I was too.
I love Bruce Leroy.
I feel guilty. I was too.
Yeah, watching that 6'5" frame with glowy hands whoop on Bruce Leroy, it was super entertaining. And I swear to God, if our president, Donald J. Trump,
oh Jesus,
removes Sho'nuff's vest from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, I will stop paying my taxes.
Zoom, 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 boom, 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 boom. Here he
been a while.
comes to
I
save
had
the
to mention
day.
It deserves its place in the Smithsonian. Don't take it down.
it doesn't.
Listen to me. Don't take it down. Don't mothball that thing of beauty.
You need to strut that thing in the street. It's beautiful.
We should Nicolas Cage heist that out of there for its own safety.
I think.
Just national treasure that
So you're
shit.
saying there's a map somewhere that we should find that would take us to like the Lincoln Memorial, and we would. Yeah, that's all we
It's
need.
gonna be like a fortune cookie. We got a Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, it's going to be disgruntled army vet and Persian Iraqi exile found underneath the Pentagon or something like that. It's going to be it's going to be bad. But I felt like as much as I liked here, we got the fighting and we get the resolution on the dance floor and we get all the kids involved and the students and we find out that his name was Johnny Yu could fight actually, and it wasn't just all pretending. There is a point of this that was dragging on for me. I know it was an hour and 40 minutes, and we talked last week about how 2.5 hour movie, if it's good and compelling, can just fly by. But we get the glowing Sho'nuff, and then now all of a sudden we get another glow up here for Leroy Green. And then we get, it's just so many fights back to back to back. Then there's the presenting the flowers. Then there's a dance scene. Then we get the montage at the end of the closing credits where it's still more people like, hey, and then it stops and their name appears. And the last 20 minutes, Gene, to me felt like it was a slow crawl that they could have had this big battle. Why did they hide Sho'nuff to the end? Have Sho'nuff up there like taunting him. He fights through the minions. He gets up to Sho'nuff. He glows up, and then they do the final battle. But the one thing I love, Gene, was that badass kick. When Leroy kicks him, Sho'nuff through the door, I thought he actually killed that actor. He went through that door with such force that I believed it, but you could have tightened it up a little bit.
Yeah, that was a Charlie Murphy, Rick James kick.
That
It was beautiful. But
Fuck your
Big D,
couch.
the last 20 minutes, we got kids being locked in cages. We got little boys breakdancing their way out of ropes. We got a hostage situation. We got Sho'nuff nearly drowning Leroy. Leroy catching a bullet with his teeth. There's a dance party. There's some dude who looks like a cross between Santa and Roger Roper. Like, what do you want from this movie? How is that dull and dragging?
Well, when you put it that way,
Yeah, it's a lot happening.
what about also when Sho'nuff slams little Ricky into that like scuba tube? I thought he gave him a concussion. That kid,
I thought he was dead.
I thought the actor was dead. There was no headgear on that kid. He slammed into that scuba tank. Fine. Yes, fine. That last 20 minutes was action packed.
Thank you.
Fine. Maybe I was tired.
And the reason why they needed to change a venue is because much like fighting games that are based on kung fu movies, they always got to fight in different places because it gives them more things to play with. Like you get tired of one set, you got to go to the next set. Anyway, now it's time of the podcast. We give our Shat score for The Last Dragon. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective bums. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's ordering a la carte, and 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's when you seek the master, but only find something in a medium-sized Oriental. Big D, I'll go first. Other than the misstep of casting Vanity, which isn't really much of a misstep, and a few jokes that didn't quite hit, I'd say this movie is earnest. It accomplishes what it sets out to do, and I will watch this anytime, anywhere, for any length of time. It's 1 wipe for me.
So I was going to go much, much worse when it started out. But talking to you again, I think 2 wipes is going to be fair for me. It's better than average. It was better than I expected. I mean, it was fun. It was entertaining. I can see the draw of the genre. I will give a Bruce Lee film a chance and see if what you have told me here stands true. But yeah, I can see why people like it. It's fun, man. It is nobody really gets hurt. I mean, other than Bruce Leroy throwing ninja stars into dudes' hands, nobody really gets hurt real bad. Everybody in the end, I'm sure everybody gets together at the end. They can be friends with each other and we'll move on and there's some romance. 2 wipes. That's the best I can do.
There you go, Daylen. Much better than you thought. I think this movie holds up, and maybe you're being a little too hard on yourself. We do have some listener voicemail, and it's quite flattering. The first one comes from Cliff in the UK.
Hey, Shat Crew. It's Cliff here from the UK. Big friend of Annie Hunt's, who I know is a fan of yours. So I only really listen to Shat The Movies, and I just listen to the ones I know. And you guys are awesome. Love Big D. Love Gene. Gene's amazing. If I was gay, Gene would be my go-to guy. So anyway, that's all I need to say. I think you guys are amazing. Keep doing what you do. Love you to bits. Take care. Bye.
Well, thank you so much, Cliff. I think Cliff is referencing Andy Hunt, who did Muppet Christmas Carol. I love that we're building our little family over there in the UK. And Cliff, as a massive Anglophile, I got to tell you that your words touch my heart, and I would gay for you as well.
I'd be curious what specifically about you he likes. Because obviously he's talking physically. I think it's got to be your hair.
Could be.
Yeah, you have a thick, your hair.
You know what it is? I know what he really likes is when I get super drunk and then I develop a really bad accent. It's kind of like Vanity's in The Last Dragon, mimicking what I hear on Premier League mornings every weekend.
Next time, listeners, write in. Tell us specifically what you like about Gene. Because I think it's the hair, or because also he is a bear. If you ever get him shirtless, it is...
I'm not that hairy. People think I'm hairier than I am.
You could braid it. Also,
That's
large
true.
Nipples. You can verify that with his mother.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
there's a lot to like.
I'm not hairy, guys. I'm like average.
No,
hairy.
you're Persian.
What?
Don't lie.
I'm very unhairy for a Persian.
But that's hairy for a normal person.
I have no back hair at all. I have 0 back hair.
I've never checked that.
I'm not you. I'm not a human dolphin.
We'll see what the people like.
Well, thanks, Cliff, for calling in. We love you, and thanks for listening. Next up, we have one from Cirrus Wade Vortex with an actually about instinct.
What's up, Shat Crew? This is Cirrus Wade Vortex from Western Washington. Been a while since I called in. Last one was probably several years ago. Some wine-induced rant about Top Gun. Anyways, calling in today about instinct, and I've got an actually for Big D. No. And you live in Florida, brother, so I'm thinking someone comes in and assaults Marshmallow. You got the right to do whatever you want, and the courts will let you go scot-free.
Was he recording that from a jungle? Did you hear the background there at the end?
Who knows what's going on in the Pacific Northwest?
But yes, if somebody came in and assaulted my family, I think I would also act that way. What was the actual? Did I condemn him for what he did?
No, I think you were talking about the legal ramifications of like when you're like when you can legally get away with killing and not.
Oh, Florida, of course. Yeah, Florida, we could do anything. I could stand my ground even if I'm not on my ground. like legally now, Gene, I have a concealed carry permit, but they changed the rule so you don't need a concealed carry permit, but you do need to hypothetically be eligible to get a concealed carry permit. Believe it or not, Gene. So you can carry a gun as long as you could theoretically get one. So I'm pretty sure I could shoot anybody for looking at Marshmallow. Test me.
I've already got 2 t-shirt ideas coming out of this episode. One is you can't break their bones, but you can break their spirit. And the other one is stand your ground even when you're not on your ground.
Good.
My definition of the tools I need to defend myself at home keeps expanding. Like at first it was like, I need a revolver. I need a reasonable revolver, like a K-frame. To help with that, probably a shotgun would be a really good idea because that's really the ultimate at home defense. So I get a shotgun, then I got the revolver. And I was like, maybe though, what about carrying on my person if I need to concealed carry? So then came the M&P shield, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I got a 9mm. Then I was like, man, I don't really have, target acquisition on the revolver is really tough. I probably need some sort of lighting and a red dot. So maybe I need to go to some sort of a Glock. And then came the AR, where it was like, well, what if something is down the block? And it's spiraling out of control, Big D.
I can picture you like in your closet. There's somebody breaking on your door, and you're trying to assess, to match what kind of weapon you need in that situation.
I forgot to tell you. Then the King Bee talked me into getting a micro-roni. So now I've got a freaking Glock 19 slips into a micro-roni. I don't know when that's going to come in handy, but you never really know. I was taught by my friends at the range that I should really establish, I mean, you know this as a military person, a manual of arms. I should know 2 weapons probably very, very well inside and out, be able to clean them, service them, fire them tactically. And so I'm paring down. It's just going to be just 1 9mm handgun and the AR, and everything else will be Sarah's weapons.
Yeah. So my 3 for when I have to tactically accessorize Gene for something where I was concealing, it would be my Shield Plus, my 9mm.
Oh, you went Shield Plus. Nice.
I did went Shield Plus. It was.
Do you have optics on that?
Oh no, please, optics. Listen to me. If I can't hit, I'm going to use that when the threat is clear. When I can hit them without being like, red dot, hold on, guys. Can you stand there for a second? No, I don't need that shit. My father has that shit. It's bullshit. It's stupid.
You don't believe in red dot at all?
Yes, if you want to have fun target practice, but I don't want that in my conceal like holster. I'm going to get that caught or whatever. It's not, please. I laugh when I see all of the people with their tricked out flashlights in the front and then like the laser and then the optics. It's ridiculous.
The laser is silly because it's like you're going to pull the gun and then you got to find the dot on the person. Like you're fucking dead at that point.
Yes. Then also the Mossberg with the collapsible stock. That is a great home weapon just because the sheer sound of racking should make people run away. And then my Smith & Wesson AR-15.
Or both M&P Shield shotgun AR. What?
If we showed up to the same home invasion and we both had like our shotgun, would be like awkward.
Oh, this whole thing?
Oh, what are you doing, Gene? Come on. I was going to wear that today.
You didn't tell me you're bringing your shield. Well, it's a Shield Plus. So, keeping up with the Joneses.
Well, Gene, the rankings came up if you want to find out what it is now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So with the score of 1.5 wipes, that now ties us in the 108 spot with a bunch of films. Let It Ride, Bloodsport, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Stand By Me, Galaxy Quest, and Spaceballs.
Galaxy Quest and Spaceballs hit just about right. I will say that more laughs per minute on Spaceballs, but I don't know The Last Dragon was trying to be a comedy per se. It was trying to be a kung fu movie that makes you smile while also being a blaxploitation film, while also being a music video. So it was doing a lot of things. I'm happy with that score. Honestly, if it was a little bit higher, I would be comfortable with that. I don't think it could be any better. So really punching above its weight, The Last Dragon. And that brings us to next week's movie, Big D. What do you have in store?
Gene, next week, 3 aspiring rock musicians, Chaz, Pip, and Rex, are determined to have their band's demo tape played on the air. Out of desperation, they sneak into a Los Angeles radio station, but when the manager Milo meets them with hostility, they resort to threatening him with realistic-looking water pistols. You see, these guns would come in handy, Gene. Soon the situation escalates, and the none-too-bright rockers get in over their head. Commissioned by John W., came out in 94, and this cast, I mean, this is a cast of heavy hitters who went on to long and illustrious careers.
Oh, man. Speaking of John W., I was at his house on Saturday for the kickoff of college football season. I arrived having trained 3 hours of Muay Thai, and he said the words that I cannot resist. He said, Gene, I have platters of mini chimichangas that need to be eaten. The restaurant made too much food. It's all here. And so there was a cooler full of hazy IPAs. There were mini chimmies on the platter. I hadn't eaten anything all day. And Big D, I ate 20 mini chimichangas. It's about 7,000 calories in one go. And I drank 3 beers. And I threw up in my own mouth in the car on the way home. Not because they were gross. They were delicious. They were too delicious. I ate too much. So I messaged John and I said, John, remind me never to eat 20 mini chimichangas in one sitting. And his response was, drink more beer and power through. Let me tell you, not the best advice.
I mean, I don't want to condone eating disorders.
Yeah.
But you could understand in a situation like that maybe vomiting would have been your best option.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But I was in the car. So
you got to plan ahead.
I was on my way to a Phoenix Rising match with 20 mini chimneys and 3 beers in me.
What did that look like coming out?
It didn't come out. I sucked it back down.
No, I'm saying that had to have torn up your digestive
out of my
tract.
body?
Yeah.
That's fine.
It didn't look like Carvel.
I had a very busy Sunday, like on the toilet, but it didn't look bad.
Okay.
It was very, very healthy.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Also, I think it's just an Arizona thing, mini chimneys. If you ever come out to Arizona, get some mini chimneys. You're really going to enjoy them. Really delicious. Anyway, thanks, John. Thanks, Daylen. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all the information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
They may not have courage.
I don't want to go to jail. I'm fragile.
They may not have vision.
What are you thinking about?
Swimming pools.
They may not have brains.
We gotta send one person out.
I'll go.
One of the hostages, doof.
Sorry.
But they've got everything it takes
God help us all!
to be airheads.
What's wrong with that?
Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, Adam Sandler.
He doesn't wear a helmet, does he?
Airheads.
No idea what you're saying right now.
Directed by Michael Lehman. Rated PG-13. Parents strongly caution. Sneak preview tomorrow.